this is Edie Hovermale, host of Pacifica Currents. Today we're going to talk about the Mori Point transformation. I have two guests with me today. George Durgerian, National Park Service Ranger. Welcome, George.
Thanks for having me.
And Mary Petrilli, Community Liaison. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, Edie.
For you guys to tell me a little bit about yourselves, how you got involved in this project.
I used to be a park ranger. I worked with George. That was a lot of fun. And now I'm working as a consultant, and I've been a resident of Pacifica for over 20 years now, and I live in the neighborhood right by Mori Point. And so when this transformation process started to happen, I was hired by the Golden Gate Parks Conservancy to help do community outreach and education and act as the neighborhood or community liaison.
And George, how did you get involved besides being a park ranger?
Well, I started off as a park ranger for this district, which we used to call the Ocean District down in San Mateo County, and I was there for a good 10 years. I was transferred to Alcatraz for a few years, and now I'm back.
Now we have some before and after pictures of Mori Point. I've also been a resident of Pacifica for a long time, so it's been fun for me to watch it transform.
Well, this is the before picture right there of Old Mori Road, and you can see the beautiful, beautiful boardwalk.
It's gorgeous. Can you give me some history on Mori Point? It always wasn't just a boardwalk, but it had a lot of history.
Well, the first people that used the land were the Aramai, or it's the Ohlone people in the area. We know of two villages in Pacifica, the Pruistak and the Tamigtak. And the Tamigtak village was just on the other side of Mori Point, along the banks of Calera Creek, at the Rockaway Quarry area. And so, and there's been a shell mound found in this area. So we know that the native people walked on the land of the Mori area and probably fished and hunted for deer, and the wetland area supplying the tules to build their semi-permanent village with the tule huts. And of course they would then harvest and go inland for the acorn. One of the trails is named the Tamigtak Trail after that village. Another trail that goes along the around the pond is called the Lyshumsha Trail, and that word Lyshumsha is a native word meaning garter snake.
Okay.
The name got its point from Stefano Mori. Him and his family came in the 1870s, and that became the modern history of the site. And it was a farm. It was a ranch, a ranch house and a farm, like the farms you still see along San Mateo County, growing asparagus and cabbages and other unpopular vegetables. And basically, he started to build a ranch house to feed this ranch, or to house his ranch hands, and a kitchen to feed them. And that kind of evolved into the Mori Point Inn, which a lot of locals still remember going to back in the day. And it was, in the times when it took you 2 days to go from San Francisco to Half Moon Bay, it was a nice roadhouse in the way. After Prohibition happened, though, it all changed, and his son, Jack, changed from tavern keeper to bootlegger, essentially, and he started running scotch off the coast, getting the skiffs from Canadian Scotch coming down and bringing them onto the point. That was pretty short-lived. The feds got him after a while. And after that, the other brother, Ray, ended up running his legitimate restaurant. That's the place that most people who were locals remember. It was a great old rambling farmhouse with wine barrels from Italy and a big brass bar, and it was a lovely, lovely spot.
And that's the era that people love to talk about, is when it was a speakeasy and you had the bootlegging going on, and that's why the steps that were put in are called the bootlegger steps. The National Park Service trail crew put those in, and they did an amazing job. It used to be a real slippery slope that people had to go up, and there was a lot of erosion problems, but now there's these box steps, and the crew built it with the help of volunteers, and it looks really nice. People love going up those steps, especially joggers.
I'm a jogger, and I do those steps, reluctantly. So there's a national park in Pacifica. I think that's just fantastic.
Well, I'll say there's been national parks Pacifica since the 80s, and we're really glad. I mean, and I love Mori Point, and the great thing about Mori Point is that it virtually connects to Sweeney Ridge, which itself virtually connects to Malaga Ridge, and you can hike a big loop between the three of them, which is really nice to do. But the Mori Point story is really cool because right after the place did burn down, developers had all these ideas for what was going to happen here. And if you're local, since you've been here that long, you know what's going on. One was for estate homes, one was for a 7-story conference center, and then it was condominiums, and locals remember all the measures that went through and failed, and
the casino.
one finally passed. Right, that was one of the last gasps. The state was about to close in on Indian casinos, and so this developer, whose name I won't mention here, tried to get the Pomo Indians, who weren't even local, to run this casino. And even they thought it was crooked, and so they just nixed it. And those, again, Pacificans, like they have for the other sites in San Mateo County, rallied together, got signatures together, former Friends of Pacifica, Pacifica Land Trust, and they ended up convincing the federal government to land within the Park Service boundary in 2000, and then it was purchased with the Trust of Public Land money, Pacifica Land Trust money, and other private monies in 2002, and brought in to the Park Service then.
Tell us how it transformed. So I think it first started with the ponds.
Right.
That's what I remember anyway.
Right.
The pond started.
That was one of the most critical things that needed to happen, because the San Francisco garter snake is one of the most endangered reptiles in the world. They estimate their population of only around 1,500, and this is the northernmost extent of their population here in Pacifica. And so the main concern was, what can we do right away to help the snake? And their main food source is the threatened California red-legged frog. And they need to have freshwater wetlands, freshwater ponds for the frogs to lay their eggs in. And so the ponds were deemed the most critical thing to happen to increase that food source. The Park Service put in kind of an upper pond and then 2 lower ponds directly into the wetlands. The upper pond, or on the other side of the boardwalk pond, is kind of a safe haven pond in case there should be a saltwater intrusion from that seawall along Sharp Park Beach that would hurt the frog population. There would be that pond up there, and all the ponds have been successful. They've found red-legged frog egg masses in all 3 of the ponds. Yeah, so it's worked really well.
And then the next step, I think they graded the trails and filled in some of the erosion. Is that the next step?
I'll pick up from there. What happened was after kind of alongside the last part of the Mori's era, there was a mining operation up the top, or a quarry operation run by a man named Horace Hill. And that's why locals see this big notch in the hill right above Mori. He dug that, he put the cement pad on top where they used to separate the different grades of rock. And as part of all his operations, he was running trucks up and down the Mori Point Road, and they put all these kind of just dumped all this dirt off to the side of the road, right? And so instead of having a normal hill where the hill goes down and into what would be the wetland that's there now, there were these big humps, berms, and it disrupted the hydrology of the area. And that in turn disrupted the habitats for the animals. And so as part of the whole pond system, and really as a precursor to what they did with the boardwalk, they restored that hydrology. The jargon is hydrological connectivity, so that the water could flow as it naturally would downhill into the ponds. And that was the first step before they started to build the elevated trail. But you can go from there.
Oh, okay.
Well, one of the things they did was they outsloped the trails. And if you remember jogging along those trails, they were pretty unsafe. They had really deep grooves in them, ankle-busting grooves, and the water would just pool on all the trails, and they'd be pretty slippery, and there's a lot of erosion going on.